What's going on, guys? Easy Breezy here for What Have I Been Watching Installment 5. And this video is extremely overdue. So if you aren't familiar with my What Have I Been Watching series, it's pretty much I sit down and talk about the last 5 anime that I watched. I talk about what I liked about the show, what I didn't like about the show, if I think you guys would like it, and if I thought purchasing was worth it. And then I'll even tell you if I think that you guys should pick it up, or if you should just watch it, or if you should just completely pass on it. If you have watched What Have I Been Watching before, you may know that I usually do 5 different anime per episode, but I'm going to be changing that format after this episode. So this one will still have 5 anime in it, but from now on will be only 4. And that's because I do want to try and get these out a little closer to when I actually watch the show so I can remember it a little bit better. And I think 5 shows was a little bit too long, especially since I've been watching, 26 episode series. And that takes some time to watch, and I think the first show I'm going to talk about was probably back in, I don't know, April maybe, so it's been a decent amount of time since I watched some of these shows. So the first thing that I had watched to talk about today is D-Frag, and I'm sure you guys can remember when I unboxed D-Frag. I actually think I watched it right after that. So what I can remember from D-Frag was I enjoyed it a lot when I was watching it, and I enjoyed it so much that I burned through it. I think I watched it in maybe 3 or 4 days at the most. And, it was only a 12 episode series, so it didn't take too long to watch. But very, very quickly after watching it, I forgot about it. I really couldn't even tell you too much about the characters that are in the show. I can tell you what the show's sort of about. There's this club in a high school called, the Game Creation Club, and their whole thing is that they wanted to create games, but they don't actually create games, and it's pretty much comes down to like a slice of life, light comedy kind of anime. I mean, you can see from the trailer that's playing, and I'm sure if you have had any interest in the show, you've seen the trailers before. I honestly want to say I think most of the enjoyable stuff is actually in the trailer, which is sort of a letdown, but for a 12 episode series, what are you expecting? You're not expecting something, amazing that you just had absolutely no idea was going to be there. But the main point that I do want to get across about this series is that it is forgettable. I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it while I watched it. I laughed, I really did like the characters while I watched it, but, maybe a week or two after, I just completely forgot anything about it. And for me, when you have so many different shows you can watch, if you can't remember the characters and the story that soon after watching it, it's not sticking with you. It's not resonating, so it's probably really not that great of a show. You might have enjoyed it in the moment because it pulls on the right things that you need to see at the right time to enjoy it, but after that it just loses any interest. So with that, I say don't buy it. I don't think you need to buy it. For 12 episodes to buy it, I think the limited edition is really the only one you can purchase. When it comes to streaming it, if what you saw in the trailers really piqued your interest, if you saw what was playing up here, and you really wanted to watch it, then I say, okay, you can stream it. Because of the fact that it's only a 12 episode series, and you can watch it real quick, and you won't be as disappointed as if you actually bought it. So now here's something that I'm going to have a good time talking to you about, and that is ghost stories. So now, if you're not familiar with ghost stories, this is pretty much, what it is. It was an anime that was a horror anime. In Japan, when it came out, it was a horror. And I guess for whatever reason, I think I read up a little bit on it, and this is what I gathered from it. When they went to translate it, they were realizing quickly that it wasn't very interesting. It wasn't translating well. The people who were behind it weren't thinking that anyone would enjoy it for what it was. So I don't know what genius decided to change it, but they pretty much turned it into a dark comedy. And if you're aware of what a dark comedy is, something similar to Welcome to the NHK, something very dark and with a lot of humor in it, and that's what they turned this show into. So if you could imagine any horror, anything, could you imagine like watching, I don't know, like The Ring or The Grudge or some scary movie, Saw, and everything is just dubbed over in a comedy light? Could you imagine watching something like that? It seems pretty crazy, and that's pretty much exactly what this is. It's just straight up slapstick, and while you're watching it, you sort of get this out of body experience because your eyes and your ears are tricking each other. What you're seeing is horror, And, you're seeing the main characters terrified. You're seeing scary scenes. You're seeing monsters and creatures and all this. But what you're hearing is completely opposite. There is so much, dirty humor in this. A lot of foul language, a lot of racism even that's in this show. And I think if this had been more popular, it probably would have gotten a lot of hate for some of the stuff that's in here. I mean, seriously, there's a lot of serious racism in this show. And I think that if people had actually been more aware of what was going on, they probably would have spoke up against it, just for the fact that this was even made and this wasn't like some fandom on YouTube. It's crazy. You got some big name voice actresses and actors behind this show. You probably aren't even going to be able to get a good vibe for this by watching the trailer that's playing, because the trailer, you're not hearing anything, and it looks like a horror anime. So I highly recommend, checking out a trailer with the English dub, the production dub that was put on it. This was, I think, I want to say $20-$30. And I'm going to recommend you guys pick this up for no other reason than you're going to laugh at it. I mean, it's not the kind of show that you're going to be grinning ear to ear. It's more of the kind of show that when you're watching it and something, funny happens that they're saying, you're just going to be like, oh my god, I can't believe they just said something like that. That's going to be the kind of humor that this show has in it. If you really don't want to buy it, I highly recommend you stream it, just because, of all the shows that I've watched, I can't compare this to anything. This really stands out on its own as something that is unique. And I think, in anime nowadays, you don't get anything like that, especially not, on a horror anime. So the next anime I watched, I'm going to talk about, is going to be very brief, because I think everybody under the sun has already talked about this show, and I don't think me saying if I think you should watch it is going to sway your opinion. I'd be surprised if, more than half of you haven't already watched this. I'd wait because I want to buy things. But that is Kill la Kill. I finally sat down and I watched Kill la Kill. And I loved it. I loved Kill la Kill, and it's probably because I really enjoyed Gurren Lagann, and if you guys are aware, it's from the same development staff that did Gurren Lagann, and it really does have that, Gurren Lagann feel of starting off, small, and progressively getting bigger and bigger, and then at the end just like exploding. It has that feel to it. So if that was something that you really enjoyed out of Gurren Lagann, you're definitely going to love out of Kill la Kill. So to give something really, really brief about Kill la Kill, it follows the main character in her quest to find out who killed her father, and it takes her to this school called Honnonji Academy that is run by a student council, and the whole deal with this student council and this high school is that they all wear these uniforms called Goku uniforms, and it's pretty funny how they're called Goku because it gives them superpowers. And in the beginning of the show, you think that it's going to be her battling all of the, student council presidents and all of the, the president of the school and all that. But that, goes from beginning to end, the middle real quick. That part happens. And, she gets her own, Goku uniform, but it's actually not like, there's a lot of story to it. All I'm going to say is that it's very good. It's very funny. And I think that if you're a fan of anything, like Gurren Lagann, a show with a lot of action in it, some really cool action too, and the art style. I don't know if you guys, watch trailers or whatever. I'm a big fan of that art style, and if you are too, then you're gonna love this show because it was done really, really well in my opinion. Now, when it comes to purchasing it, I can't recommend purchasing it just because it's not cheap. I mean, the box set that they have of it is expensive. The individual Blu-ray releases of it are expensive, and I'm assuming the DVDs are somewhere relatively priced. So, you're going to be dropping over $100 for the whole 23 episode series that it is. You're going to be dropping a good amount of money. So I can't recommend you purchase it because I don't want to recommend you guys dumping so much money into one series when you could, easily spend $100 on 3 or 4 different series. But highly, highly, highly recommend, streaming it and viewing it in some fashion. I know, Toonami has it on Saturday night or whatever it is that Toonami puts anime on nowadays. So by far, of all the shows I've watched for this, what I've been watching, I recommend you guys check out Kill la Kill. So after watching 2 comedies and an action comedy, I wanted to watch something a little more, heavy, a little more story driven. And I looked at the shelf and I said, what have I not watched from Christmas when I bought, 30 plus anime? And that was Corpse Princess. So now, judging from the trailer it's playing, judging from the artwork, Corpse Princess looks like a horror. And if you look up, the genres on Wikipedia, horror is listed. I don't think it's horror. It's really not. It has like a horror kind of theme because there's like zombies in it. They're really not zombies, but they're the undead. That's a good way to put it. They're undead, so I guess that theme gives it a horror genre, but it's not. It's not scary at all. So if you were on the fence about it because you don't like scary anime, don't be, because it's not scary. So the plot of Corpse Princess is actually really small when you think about it after watching the whole show. It is a monk faction that protects this city from what they're called as shikabane, and it's when a human dies with regrets or strong ties to our existence, they come back as a shikabane, which is pretty much just a zombie. They're not like running around looking for brains or anything like that, but they do have supernatural abilities and powers to kill people. And so this monk faction enlists certain shikabane that they call shikabane hime to kill off these other shikabane. And they do this by offering an incentive, if you will. And that incentive is if you kill 109 shikabane, you will go to heaven. Because otherwise you'd just die and you'd go to hell, or because you held on to such ties and regrets to the earth, that's why you came back. So you're not deserving of heaven. That's pretty much the mindset of the show. And it pretty much just comes down to one or two main individuals, linear plot line, and following that from the beginning to the end. And that's pretty much what the show is about. I mean, it's really not that deep. I wanted to watch something sort of deep, but it's not. I mean, I could compare it to some other shows like X and Lunar Legend Tsukihime. I won't tell you how long it took me to think about which shows it reminded me of, but those two right off the top of my head, X and Lunar Legend Tsukihime, kind of reminded me of those two shows. So, recommending purchasing it, I'm going to say if the trailers and the plot synopsis really interest you, yes, because it's cheap. And that's the only reason why, is because it's cheap. Recommending streaming it, yes, I guess so, because I said I recommend buying it, but I think you can do without this. I don't think you need to watch it. I don't think you're going to be missing out on anything. Like Kill la Kill. You have to watch Kill la Kill. If you're an anime fan, you can't go without watching that. Corpse Princess, you're not going to be missing anything. So finally, the last thing that I have watched for this What Have I Been Watching, you may note by the last unboxing, when I said I wanted to watch it, was Bento. Bento was fantastic. Every episode of Bento I enjoyed. And it's a shame that it's not going to be getting a second season. I guarantee you it's not. I mean, I read up on it. Didn't sell well. I guess the interest wasn't there in it. But I personally love Bento. So pretty much what it is it's a high school action comedy. And you don't really get action comedies that much for high school. It's more like romance or, drama or stuff like that. Or just straight comedy. But this is an action comedy. And what it pretty much is about is, so there's, town in Japan where supermarkets across town, at the end of the day, they mark down all their bento boxes, half price. And there's sort of like this cult following around that. And whenever the, store attendant comes out to mark them half price down, there's like, 10 individuals in the store. They're all patiently waiting and watching as all the bento boxes get marked down. And the second the store attendant leaves the floor, they all go at it. They all run for these boxes, and they're all beating the crap out of each other to get these half-price bentos. And, you would think, oh, why don't they just pick up the boxes and walk away with it? Well, that's not what it's about. It's about, the pride of earning your food, about, the thrill of fighting for it, and the reward you get by winning it. And the show pretty much starts off with our main character, whose name eludes me because, names is one hard thing to follow. But our main character just going to the supermarket trying to buy himself some dinner because he just transferred, he lives on his own, he's broke as hell, and he just wanted to get something to eat. and he just gets the crap beat out of him. And, he's just knocked out on the floor covered in a pool of his own blood. And he wakes up and he's trying to, wonder what happened. And the show pretty much just picks up from there. I mean, it's a really short series. I highly, highly recommend you guys check this one out. Buying it, it's a 12-episode series. I personally can't recommend purchasing 12-episode series just because, they're done like that. And however much money was that you spent is gone. I mean, it's nice to buy a limited edition box set, and it's really nice to have them all lined up. So if it's something that you really, enjoy, especially maybe after watching the first 2 episodes, then maybe you can make the decision to go ahead and buy it. But highly recommend you guys check it out. I mean, I found it utterly, enjoyable and hysterical at moments. The animation style is fantastic, and the combat is really cool. I mean, the main character is a dude, but the main female character for the show, she has some really badass, like, fighting scenes, and she's just, like, a very cool, calm and collected individual. She just doesn't have, like, that weak female protagonist sort of stereotype that a lot of anime have nowadays, which is also really refreshing to see, especially if you're looking for a strong female character in a show. This is definitely one of them. So I hope I kept that brief enough for you guys. I try not to bore you. I know it can get a little, drawn out when I talk about anime for a long period of time, and that is another part of the reason why I'm dropping this down to 4, anime per what I've been watching, because, I don't want to babble too long and lose all you guys by 12 minutes in, or however long these videos go. But, as always, I really do appreciate you guys checking these videos out. Drop a comment down below to let me know what you think, if you've seen any of these shows, if you plan on seeing any of them, if I swayed you in one way or the other. I highly doubt I will on Kill la Kill, because, that's Kill la Kill. But nevertheless, please, drop a comment down below. As you guys know, I love to talk to you. My name is Fineezy Breezy, and I will see you all a lot sooner than I did last time.